many times in your life have you come to a moment and said, you know something? I've been here before. It's like I do this over and over again. I set up well, I'm starting to play the game, and somewhere along that line, I sabotage myself and it falls short again. Everybody experiences that. We often find out ourselves having basically a sense of mattering, a sense of worth that somehow is almost there. You're pushing really hard, and you're persistent, and you're pushing through that, and you're going to get at a higher sense of worth, a higher sense of meaning for the self. And then again, you learn there's like a blockage there. Friends, this is where emotional intelligence can serve you well. Emotional intelligence is the ability of like stepping back and beginning to say, what makes me tick? What am I willing to see that I'm trying not to see, that I need to see so that I can become the human being I could become? Well, the truth is your brain is built for survival. It's not built for thriving. And it finds particular patterns, emotional patterns, that lock in when they find success. And as they lock in, they start getting hits of dopamine, and it cements this pattern into instinct. And before you know it, we instinctually, reactively start saying, I've reached this particular moment in my achievement, and then all of a sudden I fall apart because somehow inside my head, there's something telling me that that's not available to me. I'm not worth that. I can't do that. Or exact opposite. I can do anything. All I do is push hard. I get revved up. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to get excited. I'm going to do everything and push. Then it blows up on you. All because all that pushing, all that feeling good, all that euphoria sets you up to be able to fall right back into the trap of what the pattern holds you in. Understand, patterns aren't bad. Our brain creates patterns so that it doesn't have to go through the same process ever and ever, over and over again. It just reactively sees something out of the environment, and then it fires that pattern, and all of a sudden the problem's solved. However, the problem is that many of the solutions that the brain came up with at another time and another place in our life, locked it in, became pattern, life pattern, and understand at that particular point, it's creating you. You're no longer creating it. It's creating the circumstance of your life. And then all of a sudden you reach a new level in your life and you go I'm just going to go do it the old way. And then you run into the brick wall again. Well, this is the life pattern. And thinking about it, your thinking brain and your emotional brain usually are so disconnected that the thinking brain has a hard time understanding what's going on with the emotional brain. But at the bottom, though, in emotional intelligence, what you discover is that all thinking is emotional state dependent. Okay? So literally, emotions, first of all, they're not what you think they are. They're biological action potentials. And what they're doing is a coordinating activity between you and the environment. And if it locks in a particular way of being in the environment that was good for survival at another time in another place, say like childhood, and then it locks it into pattern, and then all of a sudden there you are. You're out in the real world. You're an adult this time. And danged if you don't land in the same things. I'll give you an example. I am from a profoundly dysfunctional home that had serious mental illness. My parents were alcoholics, and my mother was bipolar. Okay? And there was always something just exploding and going crazy. And at first, I learned to adapt to that by shrinking, emotionally shrinking, impaling almost. And then as I grew up and went through adolescence and stuff like that, I became big, tough, and I would push through things. But what I found myself doing, remember, I had built myself to survive in a very chaotic home. As an adult, what I did is I would create chaos if there were not chaos there to manage. I mean, at 31, I owned an advertising agency. And if you've ever been around an advertising agency, oh my gosh, it just brings in chaos, okay? And I'm sitting there one day going, why me? Why me? And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I'm the ringleader. I hired every one of these people, and I've done that to create chaos just boiling right beneath the surface. That's the pattern that I learned that was so successful when I was a kid. But now as an adult trying to build a business, it wasn't successful at all. It kept me stressed out. I had a lot of distress, all this stuff, and I couldn't understand it because I was doing everything right. Everything right. I was a young man of Greenville, South Carolina. I was doing all this really cool stuff, and I was up and coming. And yet there was this tendency going in there. I was in the right field. If you're going to get stuck in the pattern of having to take care of chaos, well, I was there. But it wasn't good for the home life. It wasn't good for me. But it was what I was stuck in because it allowed survival. Emotional intelligence, you begin to realize, oh, this is pattern-making machinery. And what I've done is I've fallen into patterns without even knowing it. They're not my patterns. The patterns, once created, create me. And what I'm asking of you is to recognize you cannot help but to develop patterns. That's the way the brain works. Okay? It creates the pattern, locks it in, and then it starts creating you and your circumstances. It's not like they're not opportunities around you, but the observer that you are gets so locked in, it can't see beyond the little binders that hold it right in place. So dealing with it, if you think about it, emotional intelligence, what you discover, all thinking is emotional state dependent. You want to be able to produce a particular emotional mind that can engage the challenges of life. You also begin to realize that failure is not a bad thing. Failure forces the brain to learn. And in the failure, I finally realized that, it's not out there that's crazy. What's going wrong is in here. I finally failed enough to realize I could see the pattern. Once I saw the pattern, I could begin to make corrections and intervene into it and become a very extraordinarily different human being over time. But I had to see the emotional intelligence. I had to understand the role of emotions is not bad. Even things like shame, guilt, those are highly functioning emotions for organizing human experience in groups. You've got to have it to be able to make it cohesive. They don't have to be toxic guilt, toxic shame. They can be powerful for reorganizing the self into higher functioning. And if you're going to harness that, you're going to have to use those two powerful emotions to help shape a new being. Those are the emotions you use. In addition to that, with compassion. The compassion is the one emotion that teases apart life pattern, so that it can be reconstructed into higher functioning. So there you go. You begin to see, I need to be the intelligent consumer of emotions rather than the avoider of emotions, or only having one set of emotions that are like manly. No, what you're looking to do is you're looking to become human, fully human. And with the emotional intelligence behind you, you begin to be able to observe the patterns, see how they got created, learn how to disrupt them, and then build higher functioning patterns. And at the bottom of it, you discover win or lose, you're still conscious creation. Okay? Now, my creation is a big bang. But at the same time, I realize there's a conscious part of this that all of a sudden I realize that life is on my side. And friends, with all this together, you begin to see that if life is on my side, why am I going against the current? This is the time you find this emotional intelligence. You start using it to start saying, emotions are not optional. However, emotions are also buildable. You can build a situation where emotions, particularly your emotions, arise, and you can think through problems at that scale rather than the reactive mind. Friends, that's what this whole work is about. My invitation to you is take a look. Right now, we're in the first chapter. We're at the opening of the first chapter of my book. And we're going to have video like this going through it to help augment that book, to be able to give you a bigger picture of what's really going on within you and how you can take this powerful gift that you are, to open it and recognize it's always been a gift. I didn't have the right emotional nature to pull it forward and to produce the kind of mind that engaged life in a powerful way. The time is now. We're at chapter 1.